We need to get a theme song. So
Yes.
excuse us, folks. We don't have a fun party song, but we're going to have one for next week. That's my goal. We're going to have a recorded theme song. So if any of you out there are talented enough to help us figure that out,
I played one last. I played one last week. It was pretty good.
we need a jingle that we own.
Oh,
So
we
the
need a,
topic I wanted to, in essence, we are 1 week away. This 1 week from today, those of you that are, I don't know, I don't want to insult anybody, but smart enough to go to events and are going to 8% Nation next week. Number one, great choice. Number two, in spirit of next week, I'm going to drop some bombs this week. We are going to drop some bombs this week. And the topic is how to create activity on a monthly budget of $1,500 or less, which I find most average insurance agents are operating on a $1,500 month or less budget. And so I want to go over several things. And I'm going to try some new stuff this week to do this. And one thing I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to switch my cam to my camera I can show people and write at the same time.
this is a good subject. I think there's going to be a lot of agents out there who need to know this information. Something, I've kind of been sharing with some of the newer agents that we've been talking to lately who are hopping on to Medicare Peace of Mind, because when you first start, you don't have those dollar bills to start advertising or marketing like a lot of these larger organizations. So
Absolutely.
this is sweet.
Absolutely.
This is a good subject.
So okay. So it kind of minimizes this. So what I'm going to do is that so that people can see it better.
Okay.
And in essence, nobody's watching right now, which, wow, are you missing out? You should have been here live for this. However, I'm gonna drop the dang bombs anyway. And so, in case you didn't hear, how to create a marketing budget a month, and some people only have $0 a month for their budget. And so, for me, I would do that. So again, the goal today, 1,500 or less. Okay, if that's you, here's what I would do if I was going to be the one who is going to start right now, and I'm going to start a business in insurance, in Medicare with my focus. This is what I would do to start out for the first month, like to launch myself. Number one, you need to come up with as close to $1,500 as you can, in my opinion. Work side hustles, go sell some stuff, whatever you got to do to get to a point where you have a marketing budget as close to that as possible to launch yourself. Because if you think think of yourself as running a business, not as being an employee of somebody else, which is what most of us are used to being. So, with that being said, I'm going to quit our team so it stops distracting me. Maybe. Okay, I have it turned off on my side. Hopefully, you have it on your side too. What you do is you right click on it and then you go to exit. So you're going to take 1,500 or less, and I'm going to use it in 3 ways. I'm going to use direct mail, and I'll tell you why I would start with direct mail rather than starting with a digital marketing campaign. The downside of a digital marketing campaign is the number one objection you get is I didn't fill out a form, which is hard to overcome when you don't have like physical, tangible proof that they filled out a card. So for me in the beginning, especially with such a small margin of error for success, you want to do activities that have the highest potential to close as possible. So direct mail, and then you want to pick your strength on direct mail. For me, if I'm in the beginning, what I would do is I would do a split drop. And my goal for the direct mail part of this, because the other parts of this are grassroots and educational seminars. Now, understand there are 2 ways to do educational seminars, in my opinion. One where you use, one type would be you're using money to advertise. You're doing a direct mail drop, you're doing online marketing, you're doing both. You're doing something to market and funnel people to your educational seminar. The other way, if you don't have the money, because for me, if I'm going to use a budget, especially if it's $1,500 or less, I am going to direct all of that to this. Because in the beginning, what this equals is leads, and leads that I can literally start working. And that's the key part of this. You got to do activities that keep you working so you keep having progress. And ideally, the mind game hack that you have to figure out is the faster you make your first sale, the faster everything else falls in place. Because if you didn't know, if you've never done bricklaying, the key to making a wall straight and plumb is laying the first brick correctly. Same thing with tiling a floor. If you don't set the first tile correctly, the rest of the floor is screwed. And farther into the floor you go, it is. And so same thing with launching your career, whether it's Medicare or anything else. When you're launching your business, you want to have a very tactical approach in the first 30 days. And in my opinion, you want to have a 90-day plan. And you want to operate on a quarterly basis as an insurance agent, because most election periods go on a quarterly basis. Quarterly financials, you pay your taxes quarterly as a business, you pay your income, your payroll taxes quarterly. There's a lot of things that happen on that 3-month basis. And so I would plan everything around that. That way you have a good amount of time to do a lot of planning and not too far ahead where you can't be adaptable to changes or modifications. So I put together all 3 of these things, and I'm looking for on this basis is I want to know what else can I do? And so from here, you just take this, basically, that's the other way, and put it here. Now, under grassroots, there are multiple subset categories of that. And so we're going to go through these and kind of break them down one at a time. And I'm going to take a picture of this with my phone so I don't have to, because I'm going to erase this, and we're going to start over with a new concept here.
Hey, real quick, when you were talking about direct mail, you mentioned you want to have a focus. And you were going to do a half and half. Is that part of your focus T65 and then a decent focus, or what were you going to say there?
Yeah, so we'll go into the direct mail first because that's the first piece of this. So that's what we're going to break down. So I'm going to erase everything else.
Let's do it.
Except for direct mail. And so again, the goal of this is to get leads, and the goal of that is to get appointments, and the goal of the appointments is to get apps. Because in case you didn't hear, this is the only way that you feed your family as an insurance broker. So the whole point is you've got to have a plan to have a high production rate to get as many leads as possible and turn as many of those leads into appointments as possible to get as many appointments as possible. So in the beginning, you have to understand that in essence, there's 2 categories when it comes to Medicare. There's T65, there's low income. Those are the 2 categories you're going to target as far as who are you going after. You can also, in some areas, be creative and go after counties that only have MedSup and then do targeted MedSup stuff. So let me adjust the camera to make sure everybody can see. Okay, so we have quite a few things you can do with this, but the first step that you want to do is create a plan of how am I going to do this. So this is the holy grail for everybody that wants to get to somewhere. Is they want to be good in the T65. However, the downside of the T65 market, so you have T65 positives and negatives. Then we have low income positives and negatives. If you're looking at T65 positive, is you make the most money. It has the highest commission rate on Medicare Advantage and usually has the best chance for opportunity to have a package sale and build things together. So your T65 has that. There's a lot of them. So in Colorado, I'll use that as the example, there's between 4,500 to 5,000 per month that turn 65 in our state. In every state varies a little bit. I mean, in Maricopa County in Arizona, just one county alone, there's like 10,000 a month. And so it just depends on where you are. But nationally, the number is right. It's been the number everybody uses is 10,000 a day. Nationally, it's closer probably to 11,000 a day now, because we're getting in deeper and deeper into the pocket of baby boomers. In fact, we're starting to trail into the tail end of the baby boomers, and we're going to be transitioning in a couple of years to the Generation X folks. So it's going to be a transition you got to be ready for, and direct mail over time will become less and less valuable as we transition to the Gen X crowd, because they're more and more apt to use the digital stuff. So you want to have a mix. You want to have a long-term plan to add digital to your mix. But just understand the negatives of digital is it's a long play. And so it can take a while to build up momentum. You can spend a lot of money with no return for a while you calibrate and figure things out. So that's why I like direct mail first. If you're starting out, your first 30 days, I'm planning ahead. I'm going to save up. I'm not going to just hit the ground not running. I'm going to be planning this out. This is how I would do it. So I want to have T65 in there because the positives. And then usually it has a higher retention rate, because you get them, basically you're dating them in high school and you marry them before they date anybody else. And so they don't even know if they're missing. You're it. And they don't really want to start over. Again, for me, in the process, as soon as you can get fact-finding done with somebody, they're basically your client, because nobody wants to start the fact-finding process over with somebody else. Nobody ever wants to do that process. So we have that. But the negative of T65 is usually you have to be, the key to T65 is you got to get there first. And then you also have to get there in a position where, not just being first, but when you're first, you got to lock them in. So you got to get there first, and you got to win them over quickly, because you're trying to lock them out. And so as of such, usually you're 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 months away from their window, depending on what you're targeting and where you're targeting to get the numbers you need. And so it takes a while. So it's a long payoff. This is a long play. Now, over time, you want to consistently do this. And what happens is the pipeline for T65 is a much bigger pipe. And it takes a lot longer to fill it up with all the water until you have a full pipeline. So it usually takes 3 to 4 months of time of consistently doing drops with basically no return, because you do a T65 drop, you get leads back. So this is the card that we use. You get a lead card back, and this card, someone's like the one I just worked this morning. The guy's turned 65 in February, so his window doesn't even open up till November. So in that case, if you're not able to help someone until November, if I get a lead back now in July, that's a long time to wait to get my money back. And if you're just starting out in the business, not only do I need to run the business, but I also need to feed my family and pay my bills and other stuff. And so the income that's going to come back on my investments, some of it's going to go to bills, and some of it has to go back into investing back in the business. If you don't invest back in the business from your first sale and to your last sale, you'll fail quickly. You'll lose momentum, because you're always going to be trying to start the boat movement again. Keeping the boat moving is much easier than starting the boat moving from a dead stop. So the long payoff, and the other negative of T65 is there's high competition. So there's a lot of competition in the T65 market, and you're dealing with people that probably have more budget than you do for marketing and things, have a cleaner presentation. And so when you're competing against bigger dogs, well, number one, don't cut corners. Number two, just understand this is a long play, but you don't want to not play, because if you delay starting it, you're just delaying it until you get the pipeline full. And one of the big cool payoffs is once this pipeline gets full, that's when everything changes for you. In the beginning, that's where the hard work is filling your pipelines. So you want to take the $1,500, and I would split it. Now, low income, the positive is it's year-round business. Okay. It also offers opportunity for a higher referral rate usually. And they usually live in pockets. You can usually find them easier. There's places that you could market to find these people quickly. And a lead drop's a great way. You do a wide cast lead drop net that you turn around, and half of those will come back with apartment numbers. And now you have a list of different apartment complexes to go after and try to create relationships with on a grassroots side. So the grassroots feeds the direct mail, and the direct mail feeds your grassroots if you're doing it correctly. But again, this is trying to make 30 days to heyday, 30 days to where I don't fail, 30 days to where I'm in the 8%. not in the 92% that quit. Because really the only way to fail in insurance is either you don't like or don't help people, you're evil or you're criminal, or you just quit. That's it. Those are the only ways to fail at this. But so I would put together a drop. Now the negatives of low income is it's also high competition now.
Mm-hmm.
What used to be a low competition market because of some of the negatives is now a high competition market. And so, to be honest, I would probably not do a very big drop of low income. In fact, what I would probably do instead of a drop is I'd probably buy a list instead. And I'll tell you, because the last few low income drops I've done, the last one I did was I did a 3,000 piece drop and we got one response back. That made that a very, very, very expensive lead. And even if I would have closed it, which we didn't, I never would have got my money back. So I'm hesitant to do low income because it's such a saturated market right now. That's where, I mean, like that's where the call centers are going after right now. That's where everybody's going after, because right now, this time of year, unless you've got a full pipeline of T65, everybody's competition that you're fighting with, everybody's at the other trough. They're at the low income trying to get this right now. And so what I would do is I would buy a list I would get a list for this, which will only use about $200 of your budget to get a big list. You can get a list of 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people. And the list that I would get, it would be age 66 to 79. Once you hit 80, it's really hard to get people to change. So I wouldn't go into age 80, where there's something psychologically people do not like change at 80 plus. 85 plus, it gets way tough to get them to change. And then so we get into this, and then I would also do income up to like 30K, because I want to get LIS and Medicare, Medicaid folks in the same net. Okay. So one thing, hey, Javad, do me a favor and share this in the Medicare gurus and the insurance syndicate groups. Let's see if we can get some more people, because you're right. I am dropping some nuggets right now, and it's a shame that only a few people are seeing it. So if anyone is watching, share this thing somewhere in some group that you're in, and let's see if I can help more than one person today before we run out of time. So again, I would put together a low income list, and I'm going to take that list and I'm going to do a couple of things with it. I'm going to find all the apartment numbers. And again, I'm going to put together an apartment list. I'm going to use Google to do a Google search to figure out what's the name of the apartment complex. Does it have a website? Does it have any other information? And then you basically want to be a detective first and pretend like you're helping your mom find a low income housing location. And you're going to call that place and you're going to say, can I talk to the housing director or the activities director? And then from there, I'm going to try to position to tell them, look, number one, I want to ask questions first. And so since I'm trying to pretend like my mom's going to go there, I'm going to say, how many units do you have? Is there a waiting list? Are there any income requirements? I'm going to do a bunch of stuff like that first before going in there. Because when I get there, I want to show up with what I call goodie bags. And so you can do a couple of things based on the time. So when COVID hit, it was toilet paper, it was hand sanitizers, any kind of free swag I could get a hold of from the carrier reps. I would throw those into goodie bags. And then you take the goodie bags. Once you know how many units, so that's why you got to ask how many apartment units there are. And you also, so you're trying to find out the name of the activities director, how many apartments they have, what the waiting list looks like, if there is one, any requirements, and then any kind of activities they offer to their residents. So once I take that information, now I'm going to put together as many goodie bags as they have units. So if they have 30 apartments, I'm going to put together 30 goodie bags, and I'm taking them to that activities director in a box. I'm going to ask them that, because I'm not allowed legally to go door to door and put those door to door. I'm going to ask that activities director, though, if she would like to either hand them out or have them out where someone can just grab one. But in a perfect scenario, you actually talk them into taking them around to each resident's house for you compliantly, because you didn't do it. You didn't pay them to do it. You just asked if they would mind. And so that's how I would attack the low income side of it. I would not use any of my $1,500 budget that I've created to launch myself to put that towards low income leads, because you'll get one lead and you'll be very frustrated. What I would do, though, is I would do a drop of T65.
Hey, Josh, real quick.
Yes.
What is just give us a description. What's in your goodie bags?
Well, the goodie bag, I'm going to
simple stuff.
have a combination of things. Let me see. Oh, my backpack's outside. I was going to say I probably have one with me. They're out in the car though. But basically, I have a business card. I have a business card magnet, and then I'll have one of the depending again. Usually in this scenario, I'm going after a low income facility, so I'm going to pick one of my carriers that has a strong dual product. I'm going to have either a one-page brochure or trifold or something that I fold up and put into the goodie bag. There's information on a plan of some type, or even just a generic thing about LIS or something like that. I'm also going to have the goodie. So what I used to do is I'd put together one that had, I have one of the sanitizers, like a Humana sanitizer like this. But then I would put in a hand sanitizer. I'd put in a toothbrush. I'd put 3 or 4 or 5 things in there at once, thinking, oh, they'll be all excited because they have so much stuff. But in reality, what I found out is one thing in the bag is equally impactful as having 10 things in the bag.
And you're taking advantage of the swag that you get from carriers.
Well, yeah,
you're
I was
using that.
Like for me, most people use the swag to stand at some like health fair or something, or a flea market or something, and they try to use it as bait to get people to come over their table. For me, that's not good enough. I want it as bait to like get a lead or get an app or get something.
That's good stuff. Good stuff.
So I would position to have in there also, like I said, some kind of useful item that low income people don't necessarily have a budget for. And so like, floss and toothbrushes and hand sanitizers, toilet paper back when you couldn't get any toilet paper, whatever the more outside the box you can think, the better. And in reality, what I might even do before I do the drop off of the goodie box is I would take a day to go around, not dressed in my logo stuff, but dressed kind of like undercover, just kind of go around and see like this building I was at yesterday as an example. Half the people on this floor had Broncos stuff on their door to go into their apartment. And so something like that, a goodie bags for that place, I would have some kind of Go Broncos thing in there. And so the more you can customize this part of it, again, I would not spend a lot of money. You really just need a list to know what places. You also don't even need to spend any money on a list. What you can do is just use Google and say low income housing near me, or whatever you want to find. That's the magic phrase with Google Maps. Go to the maps, type in blank near me, and it'll show you all those things near you. So if you want to find all the food banks near you, food banks near me, or near Greeley, or near Los Angeles, or wherever you're searching. So you want to put together the list somehow and attack low income in the beginning, because this will provide low income. Low income is low-lying fruit where you can write business. I just helped somebody today who's low income, and they're effective for August 1st now. I don't have to wait. Now, just understand on the commission side of things, this is also the lowest bearing fruit because they prorate and it's half as much. Okay? So this is an opportunity for you to launch yourself. This really is more of a grassroots style, but you can, like I said, some people like to do a drop and have low income leads, which you can, but like I said, my experience in the last few, we're getting like less than a point of a 1/10 of a percentage point. Like I said, you don't want to spend $1,500 a lead because you get one lead and you go out of business. It's much better to do a more effective approach. So focusing on T65 is where I would spend 90% of my money. And what I mean by split it, though, is I'm really splitting it by 2 different ways to attack the T65 market. One of them is for T65 leads in a direct mail response fashion, and one of them is for my seminars. Because the sooner you start doing seminars on a consistent basis, the sooner you have a consistent flow of T65 people to help. It's a phenomenal way to build a long-term continuous structure where over time, I mean, you're going to start getting 3, 4, 5. On my last couple of seminars, I've gotten 10x, 10 times my investment. And so if you can spend $1,000 to get 10,000 back, you should do that all day, every day, and twice when people will let you. But you're going to have to learn with the seminar game. You're going to have ebbs and flows. It goes in waves. Same thing with leads. You're going to do a lead drop. You pay for the drop, and then it takes like 7 to 10 days for the leads come back, and then they come in a wave, and then they trickle off. And so you're going to have to learn the timings. For some people, you can do 1 drop per month. Other agents need 1 drop every 2 months. Others need 1 every 3 months. You got to figure out what you can afford and what you can handle, because the delicate balance you're always going to be fighting against is, think of it like a teeter-totter. You either have too many leads and not enough time, or you have too much time and not enough leads. And you're always going to be fighting that teeter-totter. However, if I'm going to be flipped on one side of that, I'd rather have too many leads, because then you create a new problem where you can recruit an agent and you can pass those leads on and not lose the business. So, but in the beginning, I'm going to split my lead drop between, in essence, half and half. And what I'm probably going to try to do, if I can, is maybe even talk to the direct mail company I'm going to use. I haven't found one that's bad. So pick one that you like, whoever you like, whatever, use them. But what you want to do is talk to somebody and have their artists and their people help you put together. If I could, I'd put together a piece that both invites them as a call to action and has an option to send it back instead. Because some people that you help will attend a seminar, and other people that you'll help would not want to attend a seminar, but they do want help. But you got to figure out who's who. And with that process, you want to do a lot of things. And so working a T65 lead, to me, is the best way to cut your teeth, because most people don't like phone work, and you have to start the process on the phone typically to work the lead. You can also legally door knock it, because if they send it back with their information, they gave you permission to contact. One of those forms of contact could be door knock. And then you also have text message and email in now's environment. And so I use all of them depending on what the lead. Like, basically, I'm going to use the phone first, because that's the easiest and cheapest. So I can call them without driving anywhere, using any gas, anything like that. If I can't get them on the phone after a few tries, I'm going to try a text message with a copy of the card, and that's it. And one question: hey, is this Frank? Don't try to sell in one long text message. No one's going to read it. You got to have when you're working a lead, whether you're sending a text, having the conversation, etc., it needs to be a conversation. And so, like, if you sat down next to someone at the bus, you wouldn't just like splurt out like 42 paragraphs in a row, like you do when you spam text somebody and send a huge text. Like, have the conversation, ask one question at a time, because all you're trying to do is get engagement in the beginning. Just build a relationship. Like the call I had today, I talked to a guy in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, and he lives on a mountain. And I talked about the weather, and I said, "Is it hot where you are?" He said, "Well, no, not really. I'm on a mountain." Now I have a different mentality, because now I know he's a mountain man. I'm going to approach a mountain man with a different approach, which is much slower. I'm going to mail things to you. It'll be real laid back now. Those are keys that you want to get when you're working the lead, but you got to have the conversation. Don't pitch. Do not pitch. Have a conversation. That's the key on working leads. And so for me, I would do $750 towards a drop towards seminars and $750 towards leads, or I would figure out a way to have a card that does both and do all $1,500 towards a dual option.
I like the dual option myself. I think that'd be a great idea. And just real quick, when we're talking these leads, now post up that lead card again real quick, Josh.
Okay.
I just want everybody to see it. So this is the response card. So when people are signing this, that means they're giving you permission to give them a call. So that's what Josh is talking about, is having that conversation when you give them a call. And you want to be first on that call, because how many cards do you think they signed?
Yeah, everybody assumes it's just one, but to be honest, most people I do ask that question, and on average, the average response I get is 5.
Ooh-wee.
So you at minimum, you're competing with 5 other people doing the same thing. Okay. And so on this, if I'm going to do this, one of the keys to the whole process is making sure that you get a duplicate copy of the list, because you want to do secondary marketing to that list. You don't just want to pay the lead company to make leads and then what now? Because you're going to get, at best, if you're really lucky, in some areas in the middle of nowhere, I'm not telling anybody where because everybody else will mail it, but in some areas, I get close to a 4% return for T65. In other areas, you beg and hope and pray that God allows you to get 1%, 1.5%, maybe 2% if you're really, really, really lucky. And so it's important that you get a duplicate copy of the list, because then you want to try to get creative and think outside the box to market to that list. Now, don't get non-compliant and door knock for no reason. You got to have reasons to door knock and things like that. But you can send things like birthday cards. You can do things like offer to do a birthday party at a where it doesn't have to be a low-income senior housing. It could be just a senior housing facility. They typically do a birthday party once a month. Offer to sponsor that thing. Offer to sponsor bingo. You just got to start putting yourself in position and stock them. Same thing with We're Gonna Lead. And I tell my agents all the time, if it gets down to it, if the people just don't ask, don't answer the phone, don't answer the email, don't answer the text, they don't do anything, they don't answer the door knock, then get creative. Like for me, I would literally park down the road, down the street, whatever. Now it's hard for me because my car is all loaded up with logos and stuff. So I'd have to cover my car or park it really far away. But in essence, I would stake them out and wait until I know they're home. And now I'm going to go door knock them because I know they're home. And if they don't answer then they're fine. They wasted my time. I'm moving on. Don't be afraid to flush it, moving on. Don't be afraid to do that with a high maintenance. If they're mean to you on the first call, chances are they're going to be even meaner to you when things don't go right. And so don't be afraid to flush them out before you get them because they'll become an issue. But T65, for me, that's how I would start with my $1,500 budget on the how would I spend the money side of it. Now, I might save $300 to $500 of the $1,500 and only do $1,000 drop and use the other $300 to $500 to get business cards and brochures and other swag that I might need. And from the very beginning, when I didn't have any money, I bought 2 polos, 2 hats. So I had 2 colors of each. And I've never, ever gone low quality. So I get the highest quality paper with the highest weight, the brightest brightness. I get high quality envelopes. I'm never doing the cheap version of anything, ever. Because I want to represent myself as a professional brand, that this isn't my first month, that this isn't my first day on the job. I want to build that in. And so, any questions that you would have, Orlando, about this particular process before we move on to the next bullet point?
No, I've just been tagging those questions that I had while we're having that conversation. So I appreciate you being able to engage while I'm asking. I did get a picture. I was going to share the picture of one of your goodie bags.
Okay.
Let me see if I can do that real quick, just so everybody can see what that looks like. All right.
Let's see. Javad asked, what about door knocking for Medicare 101? You can knock on the basics of Medicare. You can also just knock on what we like to do is invite people and make them aware that there's an educational seminar coming up. So that's an example of one of the goodie bags we'll use. That one I use universally. If I was going to go into a low-income housing facility, though, I would have a usable item in there. This is the one I use most of the time at my educational seminars, because most of them don't come prepared with a pen and a piece of paper to take notes. And so that's why this one's designed for seminars, so that I can get people to let them take notes.
Just thought that was a great, just to show a sample of what one of your goodie bags is. Simple. Doesn't have to be all crazy, but simple, right, and useful. Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to switch gears to the next segue. Would make sense to go to educational seminars, the seminars themselves. So you have a couple of options. They got to be educational, but you can educate on the basics of Medicare 101, or you can do Social Security. Either one you can use as a reason to get people in front of you at around the right age that you need. However, what you can do with seminars is if you had $0 budget, you could start doing seminars. You just got to understand that you're fighting and clawing for one attendee at a time.
Right.
And you're happy with one attendee at a time.
And really just to let everybody, so I'm working on my seminars in my community right now. And of course, I'm at restaurants right now. I am doing a grassroots way So I'm finding where can I find or where can I do a seminar for zero cost? That's one of my first objectives. Where can I go to do it first at zero cost? Um, and then since I'm not serving food really, I'm just going to get some granola bars, some water, things of that nature, just to get them a little something while they're there. Now, how am I going to get those people to my seminars? Right now, I'm dropping in on salons, senior communities. I'm dropping in on mechanic shops, anything and everywhere that I could start posting up my flyers, my cards, start letting people know that I have a seminar coming up on Saturday morning, so and so date. That is the way I'm starting to do my grassroots seminars, educational seminars here in my community. Now, I know Josh is probably going to be talking about that here. I just wanted to jump in a little bit here.
Sure. That's great tips. No, and that's definitely one of the angles we're going to go after is the grassroots side of it. Because if you don't have money, you do have time and you have sweat, which you can put both of those things and convert them to money. So what I would do, a location. What am I call it? Location of credibility. So for an educational seminar, there's a few things. You can choose to do them with food and have food be part of the bait for attendees, and you can do it without food. There's positives and negatives to both. Some people do come just for the food. However, you can avoid the plate licker syndrome some on the Medicare side, because even if they're there to lick a plate, if you're good enough, you can convert them to a client anyway. That's the mantra I have. Bring on the plate lickers. I'm fine with that. I'll help them anyway, and
Nice.
I'll buy them dinner a couple times if I have to. So I like to do them with food. You can do them without food. I wouldn't do them without nothing. So what I mean by food is, like buying them dinner, buying them lunch, buying them some breakfast, something like that, versus just giving them like cookie and donuts or refreshments, things like that. So not without food altogether, but without food. So just make sure we're clear on that part. So you're going to choose what kind you're going to do, and then you got to pick a location. So for me, if I'm going to do the food, I don't want to become the caterer. So I want to pick a location that already has all that built in, a restaurant, hotel, something that already has the food built in. But usually to keep our $15 or less requirement, most of the time I find hotels don't really work because they want to make more money than we can give. You got to find a restaurant. We find buffets and breakfast places have good ways to carve out either a menu or use their happy hour menu or things like that to keep the price well below that. And you want to factor in drinks, tax, and tip everything as well too. Everything's got to be in there for 15 or less. Okay, and so choose the type. Then you do whether you're going to do it at a restaurant. If I'm not going to do it at a restaurant, or if the topic is Social Security, like if it's Medicare, you could go either way. If it's Social Security, I would do it completely without food. Maybe just have sodas and waters, stuff like that. And then I would also use a location of credibility for this: a library, church, financial advisor's office, anything that I can like attach credibility to the location itself. That's a good location for an educational seminar. Libraries are good, but they usually don't like for-profits, is what I find. And so you got to figure out a way to do a nonprofit kind of thing, or you have to pay. And then the fee that you pay to lock down the location factors into this $15 cost. So you got to be careful with paying for a location. I wouldn't do that very often. I did that once in Wyoming because I was able to rent the VFW hall for $100. Plus I ordered some subs, and it all ended up being worked out with the numbers I had where I was under the $15. But you got to get really creative sometimes. So again, location, how you're going to do it, all that first. And then you got to figure out how am I going to get people in the seats, because having a seminar or an event is the easy part. You just say, hey, I'm having a seminar or having an event. The hard part is getting people to attend and put butts in the chairs. And more importantly, put butts in the chairs that are qualified people in the zone that you can help that are about to turn 65, which is where the T65 list that you, again, if I couldn't afford to do a drop, let's say I only had $300, then I would use my $300 to get as big of a low income drop list as I could get and as big of a T65 list that I could get. But most good uplines also have access. They've already bought the T65 list. So just talk to your upline. Most likely you can get the T65 list for free if you only are going to do a list. But What I would do is I would spend any kind of money I have. It's $10 to buy $10 worth of stamps and send out as many envelopes as you can with $10 worth of stamps, which nowadays isn't very many because they keep raising the price. I think you get about 10 or 15 of those. But
Right.
so on the money side, what I want to do is I want to do a direct mail drop. With an invite. And the call to action on the invite is one and only. Call this number to RSVP. Seats are limited. What I've learned is if you put a website or if you put other things on there, it just distracts and it lowers the numbers. You want to have one call to action on your card. And it's fine if you want to have a funnel landing page for them to go register to keep things simple. If you don't have, like for me, I have an assistant, so I just funnel all those RSVP calls to our main office line, and she takes the RSVP calls for me. If you don't have that, then it might make sense to use a funnel system that just sends you an email when they register. So you got to figure out that part of it. But you want to do a direct mail drop, and you want to invite them. And think invite. Don't think advertisement. Think invite, like you're inviting them to a party or an event. And so for me, I use a oversized postcards and the reason I like postcards is they don't have to open it to read it. The downside of using something that's in an envelope is there's a chance, I don't know what the percentage is, but there is a chance they just throw it away without reading it. So I like a postcard. But you got to create your invite and you got to do a direct mail drop targeting the people within a 10-minute drive. And so depending on the area and the type and the traffic, that might be a 5-mile radius, that might be a 10-mile radius, that might be a 15-mile radius. But you want to have, most people aren't going to drive more than 10 or 15 minutes to go to a dinner seminar about the wonderful topic of Medicare. So you got to have a low net, basically, or multiple locations. What I like to do is be very efficient with my drops. And so for me, I do educational seminars once a month for a whole week. So the whole Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and oftentimes on Saturday, there's a seminar every night. And what I learned over time was doing the seminars at night attracts a certain type of client. It's going to attract someone who's still working. It's going to attract a planning type personality. If you make the adjustment of also adding in lunch hour ones, you'll get more people that are already retired because they can attend to lunch. They don't got to work. And so I do both now so that I can get both people that are still working, because a third of those people still working are going to be A only or nothing, and you won't get any kind of action out of them until they retire, maybe 2-3 years from now. So with seminars, I want to set them up to where I'm doing the drop, and then I'm going to take a copy of the invite, and I'm going to do a grassroots so that ties over the grassroots style, and I'm going to hit up in that same radius that I mailed to, basically within a 10-minute drive. I'm going to go to every doctor office. I'm going to go to every church. I'm going to go to every low-income housing, senior housing. I'm going to go to every breakfast place. If you've never been to a breakfast place during the week, most of the people are on Medicare, etc. Bingo parlors, casino halls. The more outside the box you think, and the bigger your canvas and the harder you saturate, think of it like chumming. If you like fishing, this is chumming. So the mail drop was targeting the area that has good fishing. That now we're chumming the area to get additional people. What you can also do is take that same T65 list we got and door knock with the flyer. That's part of the grassroots too. So you do business to business grassroots, and you do direct to consumer marketing, grassroots style. I think of it like, I think of myself like Johnny Appleseed with stuff like this. Like every phone booth I go to, every bathroom, everywhere, I'm leaving a damn business card, I'm leaving a flyer, I'm leaving something. Somebody will pick it up. Hopefully it doesn't go in the trash. Hopefully some eyeballs see it. That's really the idea. So the grassroots is you're trying to figure out who has access for free to the people that I want to show up at my seminar. Another outside the box one that not very many people try very often. Look up the biggest company in town. You got to research their retirement benefits first, because if they have awesome benefits, it's not going to do you any good. But you want to find like a retirement program that's not very good, and then go talk to the HR people at that company and tell them, look, I'm doing these educational seminars. So if you have people that turn 65, you just let them know about this and then get an education on what to do, and it takes it off your plate. And explain how you have that value proposition. But I'm going to use a grassroots. I'm going to use whatever money I have left on the T65 side to target them with a direct mail drop. I'm going to supplement that with grassroots, with business to business, and direct to consumer marketing. Location, location, location. And this is bait. A third of the time they'll say, I came for I would do them at a buffet, and the gentleman would show up and by himself and say, I came for the buffet because my wife won't eat at buffets. And then you get him as a client anyway. So, yeah. Any questions you have for the crowd, Orlando? If you were playing devil's advocate, what would you ask?
Well, one of the things I was actually trying to show one of your postcards. A lot of with these postcards, I like how you put your multiple dates for your seminars.
Yeah. They don't need to see all the goods behind the curtain. If they want that kind of action, they'll have to engage us further.
Right.
To see the postcard.
So,
but gotcha. Yeah, we have the full system, plug and play, turnkey seminar system, PowerPoint's done, postcards done, invites, the system, the processes, what to say.
So come work with Medicare Peace of Mind. That's what we're saying. Come work with Medicare Peace of Mind.
Well, you don't necessarily have to. Stay tuned. There might be other options. You don't necessarily have to be in our downline to get all of the information. I'm happy to help anybody. So anybody watching, if you want help on an individual basis, reach out to Orlando, or we're happy to help you whether you're in our downline or not. Things change in life down the road, and we're not looking to poach or anything like that. Anybody, if you're happy where you're at, that's not what we're looking for. If you're underserved, underappreciated, any of that kind of stuff, we are going to be doing some big announcements next week at 8% as far as launching our Medicare machine platform. So stay tuned. Those of you that are wondering, how am I going to have my best EP ever? We're going to have something for you. But yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I want to get through. We only have a few minutes left. I want to make sure I get the last bullet point that we had, because this is grassroots for seminars. But in essence, you want to use a lot of the same stuff. I'm not going to erase that part because it's mostly the same stuff.
Yeah.
If you're doing just a grassroots campaign trying to target, okay, I don't have any money at all, Joshua. I can't do one drop. I can't do one seminar. I can't do nothing. Although you can do a seminar with no money. You just got to do an educational one, add a non-food location, and then do grassroots to advertise it, and just do it 100% that way, right? So grassroots, again, this is the inside the box thinking. Doctor offices, churches, low-income housing, breakfast places, restaurants, that kind of thing. But the more you can think outside the box and get creative to find less competition and more opportunity, the better off you are. So as an example, food banks or one that at one point nobody else was doing. And so at one point, food banks was an opportunity that you could go in, you could position yourself, and you could help a lot of people. I know people in the country that are writing 1,000+ apps a year off of just food banks alone. It's possible. However, for me, the grassroots style, it goes tenfold. You want to do the same diversification for your direct mail campaigns as you do for your grassroots campaigns. So with this, you want to do all this stuff, and don't ignore what everyone else is doing, because trust me, you think that everyone else is doing it, but I promise you, like 1% of agents are out there doing what they're supposed to do. Most of them sit around, don't do anything, and then complain that no business is coming to them.
Or they do it one time.
It didn't work, and they quit.
Go back.
Yeah.
It has to be consistent. What do you say all the time? Persistency and consistency. That is the key to success. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can't do any of this without both of those things. And the reason is, think of it like reps. I mean, you weren't, if you're good at playing an instrument now, you weren't good the first time you picked up the instrument. You had to keep practicing and keep playing and keep going. Same thing with this. It's not going to work. And you have to go mentally into this knowing that this is not 100% success rate activity. Grassroots is literally that. You're farming. You're panning for gold. you're digging for gold. I mean, if you've never been panning for gold, you go through a lot of sand to find little itty bitty flakes of gold. And you got to pile up a lot of itty bitty flakes to have something. Same thing with grassroots marketing. It's going to take a lot of effort, and you're going to get a lot of sand. You're going to have people tell you to go away. You're going to have people to tell you to have a bad day. You're going to have people, you're going to do a lot of stuff. But all it takes is one. You just need, the goal is not to find 50 referral partners. In the beginning, when you have 0, the goal is get 1. And then when you have 1, go through your mind and replay what happened. What was it about that situation that made it successful? Because that's what you want to duplicate. And if you can find a niche, if you're really good at getting dentist offices or whatever it is, then stay in that niche until you've exhausted the opportunity. But you can't handle it, just like dating people. You can't date more than a few dentists at a time. It'll get too overwhelming, too overcomplicated. And so you'll know when, like, because there'll be times where you have the first visit and they're like, yeah, you like high five. And they're like, oh, you're great. We can really use your help. And then no referrals ever come. And so you'll know within 30 days whether or not it's a good referral partner. Because if it is, you'll get 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 referrals in the first month. And when you get the first referral, that is your cue to water that plant. That is the seed that grew. Water that one. And so you don't want to overwhelm them. Don't be the clingy partner. What you want to be is just touch base once or twice a month, dropping in with some kind of goodie, cookies or flowers or something else that makes people smile, and create a relationship first. And then you send thank you cards, do all the things that are pleasantries with any other good relationship, friendships, family, friends. Because that's what you really want. You want to create a relationship just like you do with your client, but the referral partner relationships, the key is the gatekeeper. So butter up the gatekeeper first, and then work your way to the decision maker second, because the gatekeeper will take you right to the decision maker, and they'll help the decision maker make the decision if you do it right. So position yourself in grassroots for just that. What this is it's a Johnny Appleseed method is what I call it. Because you want to just carry a bag of seeds with you, business cards, brochures, and you want to carry a good attitude, and you want to get your butt out there. And right now with gas prices, like, you can't do it the way I did it. Like, it's a different market than when I started 4 years ago. Gas was more affordable. We didn't have COVID stuff. It was easier to do some grassroots. Now you got to be more intentional on the methods that you're using, and you want to be more creative on customizing it. And I'll give you that example. Take the time to go buy the apartment complex first to see if you can get a read on who's living there. What kind of, is it a bunch of bikers? Because that's a different presentation than a bunch of Broncos fans. Right? So I got to get an idea and get a feel for my client first. Same thing with working a lead. If someone sends back a lead card to me and I'm working an opportunity, first thing I'm doing is research. I'm looking at their house on Google Maps. I'm looking to see if they have a Facebook profile. I'm looking to see if they're on LinkedIn, if I can figure out what industry they're in. I'll do a Google search. I'm going to try to get as much intel as I can. At minimum, I'm going to do Google Maps. I'm going to stare at their house for 5 minutes. Is there any clues? Do they have flowers? Do they like gardening? Is there anything that I can create a connection with that human when I talk to them? Because that'll give you a competitive advantage when you do the extra work, because you're caring. Don't think of it like the weird, creepy, stocky side of it. Think of it like you're going above and beyond to make sure that you customize the experience to each person, and you're trying to care about them on a different level than everybody else, because there's 10,000 insurance agents within 100 miles of most people you're going to help. What makes you any different? What are you going to do to separate yourself? And grassroots, especially if you're doing grassroots, you've really got to do something to separate yourself, because if you think you're the first insurance agent walking into wherever you're going, you're wrong. Somebody else has probably tried it.
Hundreds of times.
Hundreds of times.
Two of the things that I was successful in grassroots, one of them was volunteering. I was getting into the community, getting into the senior center, getting into wherever I was trying to grassroots at, and volunteer, show them that I'm more than just a sales guy. I'm more than just this person trying to get a referral partner. The second thing that was really helpful for me was where can I help? How can I assist? Like right now, I'm working with a doctor's office here in Strasbourg. And today, she's like, I really need help finding this type of provider for one of our patients. I was like, you know what? Let me go back to my office. Let me find that home health care for you. I'll send a couple options to you. And what is that going to do for me? I'm going to be her best friend. She's going to send me everybody on Medicare just because I'm figuring issues out with her and for her. So how can you help these places that you're going to?
Yep. And so be aggressive in your planning. Segment your calendar into 1 hour blocks. And then after that, be specific on those hour blocks. Break them down into quarter hours. And the more dialed in you can get your calendar, the more you'll start to realize that you have more time than you think. And you can do more than you think in a shorter period of time. And if you really put every ounce of effort you had into it in a real fashion, as though you're building a business for yourself and you're doing everything you can to launch. If you didn't know in the beginning, when you're building a business, you don't get to work 9 to 5. You have to work like 4 to 11, like 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day to get the traction that you need until you have the revenue coming in. Because you have sweat equity or you have equity. So if you don't have a big pile of money or a business loan or something else to launch yourself, then you're going to have to get creative in launching your business. And it can be done. I'm living proof that you can do exactly what I just told you. Like I said, the advantage you have is I've had the time to go through this, figure out all the stuff that didn't work, and tell you do exactly this and this alone, and you'd be successful if you did it with persistency, consistency, and the best and most important advice I can give you is make it your own. It's okay to copy what other agents are doing. Do that, but do something to make it your own and make it unique. Otherwise, you're not really doing anything different and unique, and you're not doing something to separate yourself.
Right.
Branding's important. Separation of competition is very important. Creating any kind of competitive niche or edge or anything else that you can get is very important. And if you want to be in the top 1%, if you want to be in the top 20%, because 80% of the business is done by 20% of people. Well, in reality, of that 20% of business, the same rule applies to that same 20%. So of the 20% of the 80-20, 80% of those agents only do 20% of the business there. And it keeps rolling up. If you want to be in the top 1% of the top 1% of the top 1%, you've got to act that way from the very beginning. If that's not your goal, then I am not the right person for you, because that's who I like to work with. I like to work with people who want to get to the level that everybody goes, holy cow, how is that even possible? It's possible by a combination of hard work in the right direction, with the right efficiency, making the right adjustments on the fly, with the right attitude, and with persistence and consistency over time. And so we have 2 minutes left. I thank you for watching this live or watching the replay. Hopefully you got something out of this. We did. I don't know.
Josh, this has been just from my own perspective, let alone everybody who is watching, 100%. This was such an incredible training. It was so focused, on point. I wanted to thank you for just boom, boom, boom. These are the golden nuggets. This is how you become successful the first 30, 60, 90 days in your business. And yes, it is your business. Remember, this is, even if you have an upline, FMO, it is your business. So take these golden nuggets, run with them, have fun doing it, explore, sample, do all kinds of stuff from all these people you find online, and make it your own. This was fantastic, Josh. I wrote so many notes. I got so many notes, my friend.
Good. So
thank you.
I'm going to tell everyone now, and tell everyone you can. If you're not in 8% Dallas next week, you're crazy. If you are in 8% Dallas next week, come up and say hi to me. I'd love to talk to you. Number 2, you should be at every one of my breakouts. I have 3 breakouts on Saturday morning, back to back to back. They are not the same topic over and over. It's designed to attend in succession. Other than that, stay tuned. We got a lot of great stuff coming, and this is just the beginning. But they don't call us the Medicare Machine Factory for nothing. Medicare Peace of Mind is going to be an agency that's going to make waves. And yes, I look forward to seeing everyone. And yes, Jeanette, the replay of this will post to all the social media, to our YouTube channel, to Facebook, and to LinkedIn. As soon as this is done, there'll be a post there. So see everyone next week. And thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.